Let's talk herd. Yeah, it's just hard. It's hard to put these things into words, isn't it? And I think when you do energy work, you just get used to seeing that multi-dimensional not even seeing it, but just experiencing it. And so the words are they're just so inadequate in a way because they take up so much space and they don't quite fit. And it is interesting. I think some people are amazing artists with words and they can really, they can really capture. But it's just, for me, I find that energy world is like the real world. And it's so familiar as well. And I just, yeah.
I was saying you're able to bring that through in your presence, Because, I feel like that's very much part of your expression is like you are so tapped into that realm and it's, as you say, so real for you and you're able to offer that through what the way that what you set up as an experience for people. I don't know how that looks literally, whether it's you're working with the animals or whatever it is, but you're already able to offer that, whereas somebody else, it might be through their artistry with words, and it's just, we all have these different streams of gifts that are basically just doing the same thing, which is connecting everything together, and I think that the way that you are tapped into that is just beautiful, and it's a really big, massive part of this awakening within the horse world, which is so needed. And we need people who are that tapped into the energetic side of it because it's been in the collective, in the equine industry collective for so long. So we need to bring it closer to the forefront so that people can experience it, through your presence or through the way that you talk about it or your heart energy or whatever it is however it comes through.
Yeah. Something I've been kind of realizing more and more recently is that it really is all vibrational. Like we don't even, in the end, and I know that there is obviously a place for that and it's not gonna, but we don't even need to talk about it because the change can happen just in our awareness. So, for example, what I'm talking about is this, what I feel, I suppose I could say, is my purpose or what I would love to happen with the horses is this relationship where we can be one being. And it's almost like we connect our bodies so our bodies can be what they can do individually, but together. And so I realized that I don't have to, it's not about the action. It's just about feeling what that is and experiencing what that is. And where I am with it, it's a whole long journey of phases. But the phase that I'm in at the moment is trusting the horses. And I'm realizing that's a huge thing, because we go on all the time about how the horses have to trust us and we're getting them to trust us and we're doing this and we're doing that. But actually, do we trust them?
Totally, yeah.
And I realized I don't trust even when she came and asked me to get on her and we were going to go and do whatever I didn't trust her in that moment because I'm just not there yet. So that's and I realized that I don't have to do anything. I just have to feel it and almost like summon it energetically, like summon this. So, and it's amazing. As soon as you do that, when you're with them and you're feeling this trust or whatever feeling that you want to focus on, I mean, I don't think you need to focus on a feeling. It's just you can if you want to. And so focusing on that feeling of trust, it's incredible how they just want to be around you and touch you and come and feel it with you. And so so it's so powerful. Just being it energetically is really, it's all that's really, on one level, it's all that's necessary.
Yeah, I love that. I love how they're teaching you that state of being. It's just so, it's so, for lack of a better word, it's just so zen. It's such a principle of life, is to be able to be, and the fact that it's a huge realization as well to realize that you don't trust, and it's beautiful because it's a starting point. And that's what I said and I meant earlier in terms of like to get into this element of surrendering to the mystery that horses offer us. It takes this level of trust, which is vital, I would say, to that deeper realm of letting them lead us, and not even like lead, but letting them guide us to places that they're able to energetically and emotionally and spiritually. And I want to just give a quick example of trust with my gang. Is that okay?
Oh God, yeah. It doesn't have to be quick.
Okay. So I don't know if you know, but the horses and I wrote a book. We started writing it in 2018 and then we released it last year.
Wow.
And it's called The Healing Language of Horses. And they, when I say they led the entire process, I mean that completely, and literally they led the whole process. I would be at my computer when I began gathering all of the notes and the writing and typing it all up. Once I'd done that process, they were guiding me to the editor, then eventually the publishers that I contacted, then the release date, to the release date, and I could hear them all the time. They were saying, no, you do this and you do this. And I completely trusted them because they actually, no, that's not fair to say. I'm sure there were times when I thought better. I thought I knew better. But if that happened, it was always, what they were saying would come through as the better option type of thing, or the more aligned option. Wow. And the same year, I released a poetry book, which I wrote myself, and I think that came out before The Healing Language of Horses, and it was energetically a completely different process because the horses were giving me the information all the time, from start to finish, from the cover photo to the back cover photo, to the text on the back of the book, to every single email I sent. They were there, and it was really beautifully designed and orchestrated by them. And it was a very interesting process for me to go through in terms of feeling that, one, and kind of being in awe of that, and also noticing when I would go into waves of wanting to control. And then learning to just kind of be okay with that, because what else could I do? I know that's part of my personality and my learning. So then another example, and this is, I'm talking about trusting them on an information, basis. I'm not talking about, physically at the moment, like in terms of riding and things like that. Yeah. But that is a huge part of it, which is a completely different conversation. So I am moving. The other example is I'm moving house this year. Now, I've been looking for a place to move to since about March, and the horses are currently not with me, and they are moving back. We're moving back together at this new place we're moving to. I went online to find somewhere for them to move to, and it was one of the first places I found. It was just there, and I felt energetically that it was right. They moved there, okay? That is in just outside the New Forest. The owner of that farm has just sold me our new home. And in the interim, when I was looking for properties and, really feeling into, what was right. There were a lot of different factors involved. I'm building a house, and, I'm setting up a business with the horses and lots of different things. I came across a property that seemed perfect, and energetically, though, something wasn't quite right. And I was sitting with it, and one of my horses said to me, there is another property closer to us in this direction towards the sea that is better. And I was like, okay. And I just told the estate agent that I wasn't interested anymore in the other one. And a few months later, and not even 2 weeks later, a few months, which for me is quite a long time. It felt like quite a long time. Yeah. That property came through. And that was the property that the owner of the farm where they are owns. And I walked in and I heard the same horse, Lorenzo. I heard him say, this is what you've been waiting for.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. And it just was another confirmation of I could have gone in any direction. I could have made any phone call or chosen any property, or I could have done anything. Do you know what I mean? That's the thing. We have so much free will. You can basically do whatever I want.
Yeah.
But there is a level of our relationship, the relationship I have with the herd, where they've already guided me so much that I don't know. I just know that if they're going to tell me something that specific, then it's just like, okay, I need to roll with that because there's an intelligence there that I don't have.
Yeah.
And I feel that, and I'm happy to trust that. Now that's all very kind of abstract and not tangible what I'm talking about.
But the fact that it is so, the abstract nature of it is really kind of incredible, isn't it? Because you could say, how can they connect with all of that? And it just shows how much bigger everything is than we really realize. So they were
and what they are creating.
Yeah, well, because just being the devil's advocate, this isn't how I think, but I could imagine how somebody would say, well, how would the horses know where? Because they don't go anywhere but where they are. So, they have some kind of connection to the all. So they do know. And they maybe see through your eyes as well.
And they are web weavers. They're weaving. I really feel it. They're weaving all the time. And that's where this level of, I trust your intelligence. For me, that's the way that I can honor that. And they've always, for lack of, again, better words, they've always been right,
Yeah.
And so it's almost easy, but it's my mind sometimes wants to create a different picture of it and ask questions like that. Exactly. Well, they could just be saying that, or how do they know? But I know that they exist on multiple planes, and their awareness of that multidimensionality is going to be greater than mine, me personally, because I'm, still expanding into that. So, but at the same time, I can see that that's how they exist. So if I can see that for a reason because they've shown it to me, then I better trust it because it's a beautiful, beautiful intelligence, But like I said, I'm not talking about trusting, getting on a horse when you've fallen off and then trusting the horse to hold you. I mean, that's a very different setup and situation, which is a completely different kettle of fish.
But how do you feel? Somebody said this to me and it really I was like, wow. Imagine that the horses are another part of your soul or you're part of theirs, and that we're actually coming in several parts to recreate some kind of, or experience something new or bring something new into this world, this particular earth plane.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about that feels good to me. that we're not, it's not as clear cut as we might think, one body, one soul kind of thing. But then, yeah, there's something about that kind of takes away some more of the boundaries, because we tend to think that we're not as wise and we're not as capable. And I think we're not in many ways. But maybe if we could.
Yeah. I will say that in terms of whether horses are X, Y, Z above me or greater than me. So, because I feel that, I don't know, I just feel like I just know that in my being. But again, to change that language, it's also frequency. So if there is an infinite range of different energetic frequencies, then I feel personally that horses have access to ranges that, say, I haven't accessed in my experience as Dilara and my embodiment as Dilara in this lifetime yet. Now, if we were one soul or part of the same soul family or the same soul, then of course that would be an extension of me. So you could then, but for me, this comes back to words and language and expression, because yes, that would be an extension of me, but then who is me? Am I actually the extension? You see what I mean? And so that's, I know I haven't thought about that actually. I have said, my Florenzo, the horse I just mentioned, the bond is just, I have never experienced anything like it on a soul level with any other form of life. So I always say, just jokingly, that he's one of my soulmates, again, for lack of better words or terminology, just so people get into the energy of the connection and the recognition. It's more like, I recognize you, I see you, I feel you, I understand you at a soul level. And there's this knowing that we have met before. Just, of course, there's all of that. But I haven't looked at it from the perspective of all horses being part of our soul and us all being part. So that's, you see what I mean? It's slightly different, and that's really interesting. So I'm going to feel into that.
I suppose it really just comes from, like, I feel like it's almost exploring this. I feel like we have a blind spot as a species about ourselves. Like we have a strange way of both diminishing ourselves and whatever the opposite of that is, kind of amplifying ourselves. Like, like we sometimes feel like we're superior in ways, like we understand more, and then we understand less, and there's like some kind of inability that we've got to just be like level or and I just wonder if that is connected. It's some kind of, like, it's the reason that we do that is what makes us do that, if you see what I mean. It's like if we could just...
What would being level look like to you?
Well, it's kind of that feeling that you feel when you're with the herd and you feel like you're part of the herd and you're not different. And it's how does that come? I think that needs to come into our collective consciousness as humans, that we don't feel this separation all the time with animals, that we are them and that they are us, and that we feel that, because I'm sure you feel that when you're with them, you're not different from them. That's what the acceptance is. That's what the alignment is. It's that feeling of being embraced and being part of, and being one. Yet we kind of deny that in our.
I think the reason that I love the way you describe that, it makes me laugh. For me, it's exactly right. Like, yeah, we diminish ourselves and then we big ourselves up in the same instance, essentially. And I think that when I tap into that, for me, integration comes to mind. Like when you mentioned the feeling of being at one with the herd, and they are me and I am them. That is an integration of, source and recognition in the moment. It's an integration of energy. It's a entrainment of energy, and it's being at one in that moment. And at the end of the day, I think the reason when we go away from the horses that sometimes seems to like fall apart is because we are here to be at one with ourselves, and that is a journey and it is a process. And integration within us, of the parts within us. So one part might be like, I'm the best speaker in the world, and the other part might be like, I can't speak, and they live inside you. So so there's this push and pull, and that comes from so many different elements of childhood, ancestry, our collective unconscious. There's lots of different contributions to that.
Yeah.
But then integration is also why we're here. So if we weren't like that, then we wouldn't get to experience that incredible feeling of being of that integration with the horses or the animals, because we wouldn't know the opposite, and it's, we're here to do that with the animals, but internally as well, with our interpersonal relationships. And I think that's where we're all headed, and that's why we're having this conversation, and that's why horses are here on this planet, and why we're here on this planet. We're all heading into that beautiful energy that you just spoke to, which is the oneness. And but we need to, in order to even grasp that, we need to feel it in our bodies. Yeah. And that's why we're in a body,
Absolutely.
And
Yeah. It's like when you were talking about it there, it kind of felt to me like when you're with the horses, or really kind of most animals, it's like they're, if they were a tuning fork, they're vibrating at this particular vibration. And when you're with them, you do as well. And you take that away.
Yeah.
And it's like what you say, you're having to learn how to do that for yourself. But they're just helping because they're kind of structuring it all the time. They're reorganizing. And it's such a kind of powerful way to see it.
Just like the cranial is reorganizing.
Yeah, exactly.